Part 1: The Left Behind Kid. It started with a suitcase. Well, 3 of them. My dad's roller bag, my stepmom's neon pink duffel, and my stepsister Maddie's designer carry-on covered in stickers from their past trips, none of which included me. Try not to burn the house down. My stepmom smirked as she climbed into the car. Maddie ignored me completely, snapping selfies and laughing as she hopped in. This wasn't new. They always left me behind, calling it a family trip, while making it clear I wasn't part of the picture. My dad didn't even wave as they drove off. The house was eerily quiet as I sat on the couch scrolling through social media. By dinner, I'd already seen their first vacation post. Wish you were here. They thought I'd just sit here, forgotten. They were wrong. Part 2: The Seed of Revenge. The first night alone wasn't so bad, just quiet. I ordered pizza, watched a couple of movies, and let myself enjoy the space without anyone yelling at me to clean up or Maddie hogging the TV with her reality shows. But by the next morning, their absence started to gnaw at me. My phone buzzed with more pictures: Maddie lounging by the pool, my dad sipping a cocktail, my stepmom's overly filtered sunset shot captioned "Paradise Found." I rolled my eyes so hard I almost saw the back of my skull. It wasn't the photos that got to me, it was the smugness. They didn't just leave me behind. They wanted me to see how much fun they were having without me. I needed a distraction, so I wandered around the house. That's when I noticed it, my stepmom's laptop, sitting wide open on the dining table. She must have forgotten it in the rush to leave. Normally, I wouldn't have touched it. She's the type who'd accuse me of hacking her Pinterest if I so much as breathed on it, but something about it sitting there, waiting, felt too tempting to ignore. I sat down and wiggled the mouse. The screen lit up, revealing a spreadsheet titled Vacation Finances. My curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked it open. It was all there: flights, hotel bookings, spa appointments, dinner reservations. Every detail of their perfect vacation, mapped out to the minute. At first, I just felt a pang of jealousy. The villa alone was worth more than my dad probably spent on me all year. But then another thought crept in, a darker one. They'd left me behind, mocked me for even wanting to come. What if I gave them a little taste of what it felt like to be left out? I started small. I canceled one of their dinner reservations, a swanky beachfront place Maddie had been raving about. I moved their spa appointment to the middle of the night. I even sent a polite email to their hotel, confirming that they'd be checking out early due to an emergency. It wasn't enough to ruin the whole trip, not yet. Just enough to inconvenience them. At least, that's what I told myself as I hit send. That night, as I lay in bed, my phone buzzed again. It was a blurry photo of their luggage in the hotel lobby with Maddie's caption, "Travel Nightmares." I couldn't help but grin. It wasn't much, but it was a start. They thought they could laugh at me and leave me behind? They had no idea what I was capable of. Part 3: The Plan. At first I thought my little tweaks were enough: a cancelled reservation here, a late-night spa appointment there. Just harmless inconveniences to remind them they weren't untouchable. But as I scrolled through Maddie's Instagram stories that night, seeing her post smug clips from their new dinner spot, the anger bubbled back up. They weren't fazed. They were still smiling, still posting, still flaunting their perfect family trip for all the world to see. That's when I realized this wasn't enough. If they wanted to leave me behind and laugh about it, I'd make sure they weren't laughing for long. I opened my stepmom's laptop again and went deeper into the reservation emails. Everything was linked: flights, car rentals, activities. They'd handed me the keys to their vacation on a silver platter. With a little creativity, I could turn their dream getaway into an absolute nightmare. Step 1: The villa. I pulled up their reservation and noticed a strict cancellation policy with no refunds for last-minute changes. Perfect. I crafted a polite email pretending to be my stepmom. "Due to unforeseen circumstances, we'll need to cancel our stay effective immediately. Please let us know if there's anything else we need to do." A few clicks later, and the villa was off the table. Step 2, the flights. Their return tickets were still flexible, which made things easier. I logged into their airline account and changed their seats to the very back row next to the bathrooms. Not a huge move, but anyone who's flown economy knows how much that sucks. I also set up an alert for an unaccompanied minor to travel under their booking, just for the extra hassle at check-in. Step 3, their spa day. I didn't just cancel their appointments this time. I rebooked them for a couple's package on a date that had already passed. I imagined their faces when they showed up, towels in hand, only to be told there was nothing for them. But I wasn't done. The piece de resistance came when I called their car rental company. I impersonated my dad, stammering something about needing to downgrade the car to the smallest available option. "Oh, just a compact will do," I told the customer service rep in my best grown-up voice. "We're trying to save on gas." I could almost hear my stepmom's screams when she realized they'd be crammed into a two-door clown car for the rest of the trip. The more I messed with their plans, the more exhilarated I felt. They treated me like an outsider for years, and now I finally had the upper hand. But there was one last thing I wanted to do, something personal. I found Maddie's Instagram and logged into her account using the password she'd once yelled out during a family argument. "Thanks, Maddie." I didn't post anything too obvious, but I did scroll through her messages. Most were boring, her friends hyping her up or asking about her tan. But one stood out, a message to a boy from school, bragging about how she'd convinced my dad to buy her designer sunglasses. I couldn't resist. I left her a little gift by sending the boy a follow-up message. "They're knockoffs, but my dad's too cheap to know the difference. LOL. By the time I was done, it was nearly 3 a.m., and I was exhausted. But for the first time in years, I felt satisfied. I crawled into bed, imagining the chaos waiting for them in the morning. They thought I'd sit quietly at home, forgotten. They had no idea the storm I'd unleashed. Part 4. The fallout begins. The next day, I woke up to a barrage of texts and missed calls. My dad's name lit up my phone screen over and over again, but I let it ring. Part of me wanted to answer just to hear the panic in his voice, but I decided to let them stew. When I finally checked my messages, it was clear my plan was working. "Dad, the hotel says we don't have a reservation anymore." "What did you do?" "Stepmom, did you touch my laptop while we were gone?" "Maddie, OMG, what is happening?" I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. They were scrambling, and it felt amazing. But I wasn't prepared for the voicemail my dad left. His voice was sharp and angry, almost panicked. "I don't know what you're playing at, but this is serious. The hotel kicked us out, and your stepmom is losing her mind. Fix this now." "Fix it?" Oh no, I wasn't fixing anything. I grabbed some popcorn and sat back, refreshing Maddie's Instagram for updates. It didn't take long for her to start posting stories about their travel nightmare. Her first post was a shaky video of their luggage piled in the hotel lobby, captioned, "Can you believe this? They just cancelled our stay for no reason." So unprofessional. The second story was even better. Maddie filming my stepmom storming up to the front desk, demanding to speak to a manager. "This is completely unacceptable," she shouted, her voice echoing through the lobby. Maddie added a sarcastic caption, "Mom's going full Karen LOL." It was gold. Absolute gold. Later that afternoon, the chaos reached a new level. My dad finally got through on a video call. He looked haggard, like he hadn't slept, and my stepmom was pacing angrily behind him. "We're at a different hotel now," he said, his voice tight. "A much worse one, by the way. I don't know what's going on, but if I find out you had anything to do with this..." I shrugged, trying to keep my face neutral. "I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe it's just bad luck." My stepmom grabbed the phone, her face practically filling the screen. "Bad luck? Bad luck? Our car rental got downgraded to a sardine can, our spa day was no-showed, and Maddie's sunglasses." She cut herself off, throwing a death glare at someone off camera. I figured she must have found out about the Instagram message to Maddie's crush. I almost broke into laughter but managed to hold it together. Wow, that's rough. You should call the companies and see what happened. My dad groaned, rubbing his temples. We've been on the phone all day. This vacation is turning into a disaster. Good, I thought, but I didn't say it. By that evening, things had only gotten worse for them. Maddie posted a pouty selfie from the cramped back seat of their rental car, her knees practically hitting the dashboard. Is this a joke? She captioned it. The final cherry on top came when I overheard my dad on the phone with the credit card company, arguing about suspicious charges. I'd forgotten about those little subscriptions I signed my stepmom up for, but apparently, they were causing all sorts of issues with their vacation budget. I couldn't help but smile as I lay in bed that night, scrolling through their increasingly miserable updates. For once, they weren't laughing at me. They were too busy trying to salvage their perfect vacation. But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. Part 5, the final blow. By the end of the week, they were barely hanging on. Every update from Maddie's Instagram was pure misery. Gone were the sunny selfies and glamorous beach shots. Instead, she was posting moody pictures of their crammed rental car, blurry photos of subpar meals, and complaints about their new, budget, hotel. Her captions told the whole story. This trip is cursed. When does the vacation part start? And my personal favorite, can't believe this is my life right now. But I wasn't done. Not yet. If they thought they'd hit rock bottom, I was about to show them just how much further they could fall. I went back into my stepmom's laptop and pulled up their airline account. I didn't just mess with their seats this time. I rescheduled their return flight entirely, moving it up by 3 days without telling them. The kicker? I booked it for a red-eye with a layover in a completely different city. Next, I emailed the rental car company again, pretending to be my dad. I asked for the vehicle to be returned early, stating that we wouldn't need it beyond the next day. I even threw in a heartfelt, "Thank you for accommodating us on such short notice," for good measure. Finally, I decided to add a little personal touch to their hotel stay. I called the front desk pretending to be my stepmom, using my best overly polite voice. "Hi, this is Mrs. Johnson in room 218. I just wanted to let you know we're expecting a package tomorrow. Could you hold it for us? Oh, and there might be some food delivery later, but don't worry, we've already given permission for them to charge it to our room." It was the kind of thing my stepmom might actually say, so I figured it wouldn't raise any red flags. But in reality, I wasn't sending them anything. I just wanted them to be constantly interrupted by the staff with non-existent deliveries. The fallout started almost immediately. By the next morning, my dad called, his voice so strained he sounded like he might snap. "Our flight's been moved up," he barked. "Who does that? And why would the airline think we approved it?" I played dumb, barely suppressing a smile. "That's weird. Did you check your emails? Maybe they sent a notification or something." "They didn't," he shouted, clearly on the verge of a meltdown. "And now we can't even extend the car rental because they say we're overlapping with another booking. What the hell is going on?" I heard my stepmom yelling in the background, something about incompetent companies, and how their vacation was being systematically ruined. She wasn't wrong, just about who was doing the ruining. Later that day, Maddie posted a photo that sent me into a fit of laughter. It was a selfie in the airport, her hair frizzy, her makeup smudged, and her face twisted into an exaggerated scowl. Behind her, my dad was arguing with a gate agent, and my stepmom looked ready to murder someone. The caption read, "Never flying this airline again. Worst trip ever." But the real masterpiece came that night when I got a text from my dad. "Dad, you've been acting weird all week. Are you messing with us?" I took my time replying, letting him sweat a little. Finally I sent back, "What are you talking about? How could I mess with you from here?" There was a long pause before his response came through. "Dad, I don't know, but it feels like you are." I smiled to myself. They'd never be able to prove it, but I could tell they were starting to put the pieces together. By the time they finally got back home, they were completely drained. My dad didn't say much, just muttered something about needing a vacation from the vacation. My stepmom barely looked at me as she hauled her pink duffel into the house, her face a mixture of exhaustion and fury. Maddie didn't post for days, a true miracle. For the first time in years, I felt like I'd evened the score. They might have left me behind, but I'd made sure they'd never forget it. And honestly, I didn't feel bad at all. Part 6: Homecoming and the Aftermath. When they finally came home, the energy in the house was something else entirely. Normally, my stepmom would sweep in, her tan lines on display, clutching some overpriced souvenir, bragging about all the luxuries they'd experienced. Maddie would flop onto the couch with a loud sigh, scrolling through her phone while saying something like, "Ugh, I'm so exhausted from the flight." Not this time. The front door slammed shut as my dad carried in their luggage, his face red and tight with barely contained frustration. My stepmom followed, visibly fuming, her neon duffel slung over one shoulder like she was returning from some post-apocalyptic wasteland rather than a tropical getaway. Maddie trailed behind them, dragging her designer carry-on across the floor, her sunglasses perched atop her messy hair like she couldn't decide whether to scream or cry. Nobody said hello. Not even a glance in my direction. It was glorious. I sat on the couch, pretending to watch TV, though I was fully basking in the tension radiating from their miserable little parade. My dad heaved the last suitcase into a hallway, muttering something about needing to take a long shower. My stepmom didn't even acknowledge me as she stomped upstairs, slamming their bedroom door so hard the whole house seemed to rattle. Maddie flopped onto the couch next to me with a groan, dramatically throwing her head back. "Worst trip ever," she grumbled. She was still in her travel outfit, leggings and a hoodie, but her face was flushed with anger and exhaustion. "Oh no," I said, barely suppressing a smirk. "What happened?" She shot me a glare that could have melted steel. "Everything. The hotel screwed us over, the car was a joke, the flights were a disaster, and my Instagram is a mess. Everyone's asking what happened." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through her feed, her expression twisting with frustration. "I lost followers." "Followers, plural." "Wow," I said, biting back laughter. "That sounds rough." She groaned again and stormed upstairs, leaving me alone with my smug satisfaction. But the fun wasn't over yet. Later that night, my dad finally confronted me. I was in the kitchen grabbing a snack when he cornered me, his arms crossed, his face lined with suspicion. "All right," he said, his voice low and serious. "I need you to be honest with me. Did you mess with our trip?" I paused mid-chew, pretending to look confused. "What? Why would you think that?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Because everything went wrong. The hotel, the car, the flights, hell, even Maddie's social media got weird. And it all feels deliberate." I shrugged, doing my best impression of innocent confusion. "I mean, that sucks, but what could I have done from here? Maybe you guys just had bad luck." He stared at me for a long moment, his eyes narrowing like he was trying to read my mind. Finally, he let out a heavy sigh and walked away, muttering something under his breath about kids these days. I watched him go, a satisfied grin creeping across my face. He'd never be able to prove it. The next few days were blissfully quiet. My stepmom avoided me entirely, probably too embarrassed to acknowledge the mess they'd come home to. My dad buried himself in work, and Maddie spent most of her time sulking in her room, trying to repair her influencer brand. But the best part? They didn't plan another vacation for months. Anytime someone brought it up, my stepmom would glare at my dad, Maddie would groan, and the conversation would quickly die. I knew I'd struck a nerve. For once, they'd been forced to deal with the kind of frustration and exclusion I'd felt for years. Did I feel a little bad? Maybe. But every time I thought about Maddie squished into that tiny rental car or my stepmom storming out of a cheap motel, I couldn't help but smile. The next time they thought about leaving me behind, I had no doubt they'd think twice.